Thank you. My name is Stu Edens. Over the years, I've been dabbling in all sorts of things, as you might imagine, with digital strategy in my title, not the least of which, quite frankly, is SEO. In all that time, I've had to work with many requests that come in for people wanting to improve page content, particularly based on making sure the content matches how people search for the stuff they're offering on the page. That's become a bit of a challenge, as you may well know. And so we've developed this little webinar around something that we've found to be a very useful tool. As the title suggests, taking back your search queries, we have an easier way to find the SEO search queries that matter. Let's talk about SEO for just a moment. SEO is not easy. It's time consuming. There's a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of frustrating tools out there to use. When it comes right down to it, SEO, quite frankly, is a vast topic. In fact, there's so much to it that it's hard to keep up with. SEO can include content, it can include marketing, it can include technical. There are books and books written on the topic. Quite frankly, it's such a large topic that it's best to just break it down into smaller bite-sized chunks. And that's where we're going to start today. We're going to start off with this premise, and this is something that is very basic when it comes to SEO. Rank higher for the search terms that matter the most to your target audience. That's really what it all comes down to. We need to have our content found by the people who are looking to connect with what we offer. So in today's webinar, we're going to concentrate on this. We have a tool and a process that can really help solve this issue and help us advance our objectives with our websites. Now, okay, the search terms that matter. It's kind of a general thing to say, but really what that means is, again, it's the search terms people are entering into Google, Bing, Yahoo, into search engines, hoping to connect with the content that we have to offer on the topic. It includes any search term that's out there that caused one of our web page links to be served. Now, this example that just appeared in front of you, that's an example out of one page on a website, 600 unique different search terms coming into that web page. So part of the problem is also assessing all of that volume and deciding what's going to be helpful for you. And kind of as the title of this webinar suggests, it isn't easy anymore. Well, we're going to help make that a little bit of a easier task when somebody approaches you to do this in the future. It is not easy because Google makes it tough in Google Analytics. Back in 2013, they took most of the search terms behind not provided. Google search went into security mode back then. Not provided is where everything went. It had been a great tool finding out how people connected with our website. Search Console is another very popular tool. It is a Google tool intended to help with the very the very job of doing SEO. However, it's somewhat throttled. You're not going to get more than 1,000 returns on anything, whether you're looking for a page or a section of your website. You're limited to 1,000 entries. The other part about it is it tends to show you mostly branded search terms. Branded search terms are great, but we should be showing up when people use our brand name plus a search term. To do otherwise would be like, looking our names up in the white pages and not finding ourselves listed. So really, we want to find out how we're performing against non-branded search for the most part. Then there's a whole host of third-party tools. Moz is one of the larger tools out there. It can have a cost of $99 to $179 a month just for their low and middle package. SEMrush and SpyFu and a few others are out there too. They also have cost, but they're not quite as accurate as we may want. In this example you're seeing here, in the month of December, SpyFu is saying that the website had 87,000 organic clicks. The website itself claims 122,000. So we've got a bit of a discrepancy going on. And by a bit, I mean about 30%. So at this point, what do we have for you? We have StayMeet's Epic SEO Super Tool. Okay, this is something that we've been working on for a couple of months because we needed to solve this problem for ourselves. Now, here's the question. Is this the greatest thing since sliced bread? Yeah, it could be. If you've been the person who's had to have this task, who's had this task tossed on your desk, hey, we've got something going on here with this page. We need it to be found better in search. Help us. This tool can be really a benefit for that job. Here's the nice thing. You only pay $0. It's absolutely free. There's no cost associated with this. The other part about this is who doesn't like easy? Content writers like easy because it gives you a idea about how to write stronger, more relevant content. When you're looking at doing the job as a marketing strategist, this is really great because it's going to help you find the words you need to have on the landing page that resonate with the audience you're trying to reach with your advertising, your emails, or your blog articles. And finally, website managers kind of like this because suddenly everything's measurable. You know what targets you're going after. You can set a chart up to follow the progress on it. You can pivot to somebody else who has a stakeholder interest and tell them some idea about what the ROI was on the effort that was put forward. Now, really, there's just a few steps in the process. It may feel a little overwhelming in the beginning, but after you've done it a few times, it's only going to take you a few moments. Using this tool, I have been able to save significant time. About a year ago, given a page, here's a program page for one of our clients. We were asked, okay, can we improve the SEO performance of it? And I spent 45 minutes or an hour bouncing back and forth between tools and GA4 and so on, and came up with a list of keywords or search terms rather, that we could incorporate in the page content to help get that page found more readily. I had a similar request about a month ago from another client, and using this tool, it took 10 minutes. So it saved me time. But more importantly, it saved me doubt because now I'm relying on the information entered by the audience I want to target, their very words, telling me what I need to have on the page to match up with their interest. We'd like to say this right up front. Before we get going too much further, a big thank you to Oakland Community College in the Detroit area. They were gracious enough to allow me to use their website and their data to develop this process and also to use it today to help explain the process to you folks. So again, thank you to Oakland Community College. This has been a tremendous help for this. So the process, what are we going to do here? The first thing we need to do is target a specific web page. SEO matters on a page-by-page basis. So let's find that page we need to work with. And it may be within a section of the website. So we may be asked to help a section. And in that case, we're going to show you how to do that in this particular demonstration. And we're going to rely on GA4 to get that done. The next step is going to be using a tool we've built into what's now called Looker Studio. It used to be called Data Studio. I keep calling it Data Studio no matter how much I'm corrected, but I'll get there eventually. But we have this tool in there that's connected directly to that same search console I mentioned not too long ago, except by the act of using the API, that raw data feed from Search Console, instead of 1,000 different search terms that we're able to look at, about 110,000 search terms. We get a much bigger view of what's going on. And then finally, we need to verify our findings. We need to make sure that what we found using Google Analytics 4, using Looker Studio in this tool, actually makes sense on the web page. So we will assess the web page and make sure our findings are valid. So a couple things to keep in mind. We want the queries that mean the most to the target audience. This is our job. We want to meet them where they are and bring them to our content so we can have the conversation. This means that occasionally they're going to use a lot of terms that we would never thought of, and some that frankly are going to surprise us. I had another client several years ago who's in the healthcare business, and that client had just developed a new website. And over the first few months, everything was going great, but they had set up a separate section for their podiatrists. And they had a renowned team of podiatrists working at that hospital. But 3 and 4 months in, they were noticing they were getting no traffic to those pages of the website. They were doing a number of other tactics to try to help bolster that section of the site. But we also did some research, and using the old tools I mentioned earlier, we went through the content of that section, and lo and behold, the simplest thing is what it was. People don't search for podiatrist, they search for foot doctor. So that's the type of information we can take away from this tool as well. It helps us start looking at our content, the important parts of our website, and do it through the eyes of the people that we want to connect with. Here's an example of what that tool did. So a potential for an SEO target was revealed, and we will continue to use this example. HVAC school turned up in this particular tool. I should take a moment here and interject something about different verticals that we work with. Because my examples are coming from Oakland Community College, this will be a higher education focused set of examples. The process will work exactly the same for healthcare. Instead of seeing a program section of a website, think in terms of orthopedics, think in terms of pediatrics. The exact same things work, we're just simply changing one label of programs for another one that's a service line, perhaps in a healthcare organization. With that said, here's our issue. HVAC schools is pointed out as perhaps a winner. Well, here's the problem. If we're not solving for that, we're leaving 2,642 searches on the table that we're not in front of. So how about we find out if this is a term useful to us? We also need to look at it and say, okay, that's the search term. What does it look like in search? Does the search term get used? Yes, we know that. How do prospective students think of this program? They put that term in. Who is present for the results? And when we look at these results, we see that the top link, HVAC school, that's their name. Of course, they should be at the top, probably. But they don't use that term anywhere else on the rest of the page. Dorsey doesn't use it. HVAC classes don't use it. It's just not there. So there appears to be some opportunity here. Okay, let's reset a little bit. Let's go back a week or so, getting ready for this presentation. How did we arrive at HVAC school? Well, we decided to do something a little different. We've always had a log of the requests that we've been given on SEO. So we went back through that log, found out what we were asked, and we gave ourselves a series of assignments. That's where we did the testing on the website using the tool. And along with those assignments, we had this one come up. So the assignment time, our task, improve organic performance in the programs section of the website. We needed to go out there. The task is general, programs, get more traffic coming into it. The thing we're going to do first is use GA4 to find high converting pages with low organic search traffic. The next thing we're going to do is use Looker Studio to find high frequency keywords that the consumers are entering as their queries, and then see if there's some commonality, see if there's a theme we can use in there to use that theme and those words to bolster the traffic coming to our page. And then assess the targeted page to confirm our findings. And finally, of course, make a recommendation. This is what we think we need to add to the web page to make it more successful. Now, one thing to keep in mind, please, don't worry about taking notes. We're going to have a separate deck set up where you can have all the how-tos in it step by step. I've given it to a few people to have them just walk through it without me looking over their shoulder, and they were successful. So I'm pretty confident it's easy enough to follow and get set up. The other part about this, though, is our process assumes you have access to Search Console and that you have conversions set up in GA4. You may not have one or the either of those set up for you already. That's fine. Follow along in the presentation, follow the workflow, see how it feels, see how it works. It's relatively easy to set up Search Console account, and the same for conversions in GA4. And if you need help with that, of course, we're here to assist you. However, our presentation does assume those two things. So keep in mind, this could be potential for information overload if you sit there and try to scribble away notes about exactly what I'm doing and what my screen looks like compared to what your screen looks like. So with that said, we're going to step into Google Analytics real quick, right here. And we're going to take a look at what we see as far as our process is concerned. The first thing we want to do is look for the landing pages report inside of Google Analytics 4. Our objective is to find a page that has organic traffic coming into it inside the program section of the website. So why don't we get this thing set up for that right off the bat? So we have our landing pages report. We're going to add a column here that is the default channel group. And what we're looking for, once it materializes, see all these organic search, direct referral, so on and so forth. We just want organic search. And if I spell right, it helps. There. Now, what we have here is a list of every single landing page in the website in the last 90 days that organic search sent visitors to. And by the way, please note, I do like using 90 days for this step of the process because I want to find a page that has enough volume to be worth optimizing. We've been given a task to optimize a section of the website, so we need to pick the page. We want to find a target that's worthy of it because of the general mandate we've been given. We need to be effective fairly quickly. The other thing we were told is that we need to be doing this in the programs section. So what we're going to do is come up here, add a comparison. We're looking for landing page here, and that page contains programs. Pretty simple and straightforward. We want to find all the organic landing pages in the programs section. We're going to clean up our report a little bit to make it easier to understand. As you can see down here, we've got a whole bunch of information interfering. But if we turn off the all users that we don't care about anymore, we just want this organic traffic that landed in programs, we can see that our content has cleaned up quite a bit. Just organic program pages, just organic search traffic coming into it. The other thing we have over here now is a selection of pages, and we want the ones that are the most effective. Most effective in this instance is going to be a set of pages that have a high conversion rate. Our website average conversion rate is about 3.6%. Let's sort this column and get the highest converting program pages up front. So that's what we've done. Here's the top 10 programs pages by conversion rate. And we start looking in here and we start finding pages that, okay, not a lot of traffic on this one. Well, we also know that that's the cinema class, and that's not exactly a high priority. And that brings up an important point. The process is here. The process is built in GA4. It's built in Looker Studio. It comes from your website. But you do need to bring some of your knowledge to the table about what's important to your organization. You do need to have an idea of what would be helpful to move the ball forward for the entire section that we're looking at, in this case, programs. We want to find a page that has a good high conversion rate, meaning the traffic we send to it has a better chance of being successful. And we want to find a page that doesn't have as much traffic. And we found one right here, HVA. They're HVAC classes in this case. Moderate traffic, 265, not 606, not 448 or 84, 265, but a really good conversion rate at just a little under 5.3%. That sounds like a good target for us. We found a page. The next thing we do is go into Looker Studio. And here, with the way we've set this up, and again, you'll have instructions on how to set up this chart and these filters as well. We look up and find this page that we've just cited as our target. We have Looker Studio pull in all of the keywords used. And by the way, notice I've switched to the last month. GA4 was 90 days. Here, I'm just looking at the last 30 days. And we look at all these terms, and we say that there are 10,856 impressions gathered, which means that searches were done about HVAC, programs, classes, anything related, and our link was served 10,857 times. We're also seeing that out of that, we have a not so great click-through rate. It's 0.7%. We earned 77 clicks. This kind of reaffirms we found a good page. It's getting served a lot. It's not getting clicked a lot. And that's probably because at a 55% average position, the links are in the middle of page 6 in search. So as somebody once said, if you want to hide a dead body, hide it on page 2 of organic search because nobody goes there. Well, page 6 is just that much worse. But look what we find. We've got our page, we've got our queries, but we've got stuff in here that looks like it's branded. We want to get rid of branded queries. Branded queries are going to be important to get rid of because we want to be found for the generalized queries. We type in the abbreviation that's common for the school and we uncheck it. We give it just a moment to refresh. Then we come in and we put in the full name of the school and we uncheck those. We've now excluded a good number of branded queries from this, We're looking at the queries that are non-branded. We're looking at generic stuff from people who have not expressed a brand preference at this point. This is an important mid-funnel to lower mid-funnel step for most people. They know they want HVAC. They know they want some sort of training with it, but they haven't chosen a brand yet. What a perfect time to intersect with them and encourage them to come to you. We look at the outcome: school, 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 school. That's where we came up with HVAC school. It's repeating over and over again in the consumer searches. This is how they search for what you offer. So we found school. The other thing we noticed, look here, oops, courses shows up too. We see course and courses showing up in this list often. And by the way, in the last 30 days, 8,214 searches, non-branded, for this one page, but we're lagging behind, averaging on page 7 of search. So let's go back up here. We now know we're looking for schools. We have the page open. This is the easy part, the verification. Control F on Windows, Command F if you happen to be on an Apple product, and type in the word school. And right there it tells you the word school does not appear on this page at all. We've identified a target. HVAC school and its near match variations would be very beneficial to add to this page. We also saw the word course in the list, and it's also not here. HVAC course. It could be any permutation of that is a near match. It could be air conditioning training course, whatever it is that makes sense and fits in with your program content. That's what you put in here. So very quickly, and in just a few minutes, we've gone from setting up analytics, which took the most time out of this entire process, so that we were seeing the program section by organic search. We found a page that has low volume traffic compared to the other important pages here, but has a high conversion rate. So it's a successful page if we can drive people to it. Then we took that into Looker Studio. We have the selection of just that page because we don't care about anything else. We're page focused. We got rid of all of the relevant branded queries, and we're left with this long list of a total of 8,214 searches on 589 different keyword terms. Let's do something a little different. We've chosen schools in this particular example. We can still use this tool. We have the landing page selected. We open up the queries. We turn them all off. We want to find out how much volume is around searches with school. 127 queries, 2,661 searches last month that used the term HVAC school in it. Some of those are not relevant, but a whole heck of a lot of them are. Now, that's the fun part about this. And at this point, we're going to go back into our presentation and kind of review what we've learned so far. So looking at it from this point of view, just to recap, we started with a specific section of the website or a specific page as a target. By the way, if somebody comes up to you and asks for a specific page, you're past the GA4 step as far as trying to do research. I would still look in there to see what its current performance is, because they may have come to you saying, you know, HVAC page is just not doing well. And if you see that it's not doing too bad, maybe you have other questions to ask. Maybe you need to guide them to a different page or perhaps a better objective than just simply organic traffic. But if you're just told of a section, or, you know, this stakeholder needs help with their traffic, you're going to start with GA4. You're going to do that little bit of analysis by rearranging that GA4 page and find a likely target page. Then we're going to identify relevant and high volume, non-branded queries that people actually entered into search that caused your page link to get served. So the page is the HVAC page, HVAC school, HVAC schools in Michigan. We can start seeing the tail lining up there. We assess the targeted page to confirm our findings. And then the next step, of course, is to update page content to support those queries. That's it. That's really all there is to this. There's no need to be spending $79 a month or $179 a month with some of these platforms if your objective is only to learn what the search terms are. The tools have other purposes, but this one process here is always the one that seems to get the most sticky for most SEO. And let's keep this in mind. The process is not the point. The point is updating the content pages so you get found for the content that you've discovered. This is where research and analysis meets writing skills. You need to create the content. I mean, heck, if you can take your new words and put them in the H1 of the page, that's just hero stuff. Odds are you're not going to be able to, because it's going to change something of the meaning of the page. It's a huge win, but if you can do an H2 or an H3, those are also really good. But by all means, you do need to get it into body content. And in body content, let me refer back to that foot doctor comment I made earlier. That hospital didn't like the idea, or that team rather didn't like the idea of foot doctor. You can work keywords in, or these queries rather, in some clever ways. If they don't like putting foot doctor together as their label, they do have testimonials, and a little rearranging of some of the words came up with, I was really having problem with my right foot. The doctor helped me get, okay, foot doctor. We've now got them proximate to each other. A little bit of a context issue. It's not going to score the same points as using them back to back with the meaning, but you can help the page along if that's all you have left. That is a possible and viable opportunity. So when we say use the term in near match terms, that's what we're meaning. The other part about this is we must be intentional. Quality content is a must. I've spent the last 20 minutes or so talking about queries and terms and keywords and all these things we have come to know what those terms are that we're looking for. Guess what? Google has not been a keyword or search term driven engine for some time. Google runs on context. It understands your landing page. It understands not just what the person entered into search, but it also understands what they searched for before, what they clicked on before, and they have some idea that this person prefers phone calls over forms. So it has context all over the place. And Google uses context to serve its customer. Google's customer is that person doing search to the best of its ability. So added terms should create natural flow for the visitor, because it does matter that the content you have is in context with your objective and matches the context of what they're looking for. So quality content informed by SEO. Here's the thing. This is an actual outcome from when a process like this was applied to a page. It took a little while, but 5 months in, this is what we had as far as an outcome. We did it as a year-over-year comparison on the same page, 68% increase in organic search visitors and a 77% increase in conversions from those same organic visitors. This process works. You have to have a page with good quality content to begin with. It has to be not thin. It can't just be a title with a bunch of bullet lists. If you have a page that has enough content to support itself as it is, and you're looking to expand it, this is the way to go. And you can get results kind of like this. You should also benchmark and monitor what's going on. It can take a few months, as we just said, for lower volume pages to earn that ranking, because let's be honest, part of ranking is also how often you get clicked in search. What's the click-through rate? That figures into it to some extent as well. But there are things you can do in the meantime to help promote this page and get it ranking faster. The first thing is going out to Search Console, now that you have access, clicking on that URL inspection tab, and then entering your URL right up here and clicking crawl. It will crawl it, and then request indexing. You won't make Google come find your page sooner, but you're raising your hand and saying, hey, pay attention to me. Google's going to crawl and re-rank the page in its own time. That's part of its secret sauce, and it's not going to tell us what its pattern is. But we can call attention to it, which does have the effect of accelerating that process by a good bit. The next thing I mentioned was benchmarking. Now, these two charts may not mean anything right off the bat, but let's look at them. Content was updated, and we got a red line. And what we're seeing on the top chart is average position, with the top of the chart being position 1, which is the goal, And we can see that the page's average position started increasing after the update was made. We look down at the bottom chart and we start seeing that the clicks to follow happened a little later. Traffic can follow ranking, and it will tend to come after the ranking is there. You got to be present before you can be clicked, is kind of the story there. And by having it benchmarked and trackable, you're very much able to go back 6 months from now and say, we did this back in June and we're successful today. And here's that trend. We can show it right there. Now, where I'm sitting here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, I'm about 100 miles away from the Field of Dreams. And if you remember that movie, they had one big statement, which was, if you build it, they will come. Problem is, that only works in Hollywood. The rest of us, it takes a little more. We really are stuck with, if you build it, will they come? They still have to find your link. They still have to click on it. They still have to come to your web page. And again, there are things we can do because SEO is much, much more than just finding good content clues and including that content on the page. We can earn backlinks from relevant sites. In this case, the page that we targeted, they reached out to HVAC Schools 411. That's a service that matches students looking for classes with providers of those classes. The same thing happens all over the place in healthcare, in higher education, in almost any services-based industry. There are aggregators that you can reach out to get links. The other thing you can do is pay attention to what's now called Core Web Vitals. We spent a lot of time not too long ago talking about page speed. How fast does this page load? Got to be 3 seconds. Got to be under this time. That was always important, and it still is. But Google's now rolled that up into a larger collection of metrics called Core Web Vitals. And you can look at this page by page to see what's going on. And that's this. This is that Core Web Vitals. I chose one of my blogs just to show what's going on. But you can look at it and see what needs to happen because solving for better performance also improves SEO performance. Then there's this. This is the one thing that gets overlooked the most. We did our research. We found our terms. A writer came along, knocked it out of the park with some wonderful content. We got it published on the website, and now it's out there. We've done some work to get backlinks. We've even submitted it to Google, but we forget this one thing. The number one most overlooked, can't believe I forgot it, SEO task, developing internal site links. I can't begin to tell you how important this is because internal links, and we're talking about hyperlinks in the body of copy of other pages, pointing to your page, tell Google, Bing, or Yahoo, we think this page is important. We link to it ourselves. Pay attention to this. And really, that's what we're looking for. It needs to be hyperlinked text. It can't just be, well, it's in navigation. We're good enough. It's hyperlinked text that matters, just like it does on referrals from third-party websites. Linking to your own content with hyperlinks really does that job. It gives that vote of confidence that Google says, okay, I'm going to pay attention to this page. They think it's important. They raised their hand and said, hey, pay attention to it. And besides, we've got a couple of backlinks that are also supporting that idea. But backlinks have an even bigger story. We've developed this page. We've gotten through our stage of figuring out what words to include, but there's something else that we can do, and that's this. We can unlevel the playing field by using our blogs or our news section to our best advantage. Let's think back to that tool we had in Looker Studio for just a moment. That's the chart that's over on the right-hand side, except in this case, we used that same series of search terms that people entered, and we started going through trying to spot the questions they were asking. The most common question here is, what does it cost to go to school? What's the cost of this program? The other things that'll come up, let's think about some things like healthcare. It could be recovery period after a procedure. There's a lot of things that are question specific that talk to a significant, though smaller segment of your audience. And those answers are best delivered in a blog or news article type content. These things are huge internal link engines that maximize organic traffic because they get found for those questions. And those answers in your blogs use hyperlinks to point to the content where it says, we've answered your question. Now let's get on with fulfilling your need. And leads into the page where it says, make an appointment, where it says, let's apply for this class, whatever it is. blogs are really a huge engine. Now, here's the other thing. Organic search isn't age restricted or audience restricted. On the higher ed side, it'd be great if we could talk to 15 to 17-year-olds, but we can't advertise to them. Organic search gets around that. There's no limit of age on organic search. There's also no protected audiences, or there's no sheltered audiences where with healthcare, for example, we know sometimes we're talking to a health provider person in the house where the elderly patient is the one that is the objective. We need to talk to this person, this 45 to 55-year-old child of the elder. It's difficult to target to that person. You can address their questions in a blog, know you're probably talking to that person, and influence that decision for the elder care. But here's the really big deal. Look at these numbers. In this particular instance, why would you leave 1,257 engagements on the table? Answer the question. Put some content out there in a blog or a news article and engage that prospect early on before somebody else has a chance to develop a preference for their particular brand. So really, that's what we've been about here, taking back what's yours, finding out what the search terms are that people are entering and to use to connect to your content, and then making sure you're using those terms in their language on your page. We've also shown how you can use the same tool to do things like develop blog content. We can use the same tool to validate the traffic we could expect to get from certain keywords or search terms. And there's a number of other applications just as well. So really, the purpose of this tool is to use this SEO tool to create intentional, audience-centric content that gets noticed. And if you ever need any help with getting ready with this, we're here to help. So when today's attendees can go out to this link, explore.staymates.com/SEO, and there's a link to download a PDF of the presentation deck, as well as what we call the tech deck, all the how-tos. Eventually, there'll be a video out there, but of course, webinars take an hour or two to process the video before we can put it up there. So it may be an hour or two before we have that link available for you. So with that, thank you very much for your time. Here's that download link again. And we're curious, what questions do you have?